Oh, hey, it's Eric. Funny seeing you here. Oh, this is just my 200-page manifesto on why they should bring Bionicle back. I write one of these every National Bionicle Day. You see, kids get excited on Christmas, adults get excited for refund season, and your uncle who's missing half his fingers gets excited for the 4th of July closed banquet sale. But I, as a man of class, get excited for National Bionicle Day. For the unenlightened, Bionicle is a Lego toy line that followed the Technic theme opposed to the traditional bricks, and they are just so much cooler. Bionicle is the perfect amount of Linkin Park edgy to target an older audience, carrying Lego into the modern age. It can't really be overstated just how big of a success Bionicle was, often being credited with literally saving Lego from bankruptcy. This success was largely due to the frankly unfathomable amount of care that went into the brand's lore and world building. Creating a storyline so insanely convoluted, full of random characters, insane plot twists, and complete bullshit world bending, it makes One Piece look like Goodnight Gorilla. Everything from the packaging to the standalone novel releases, but most importantly, the games contributed to the larger lore. Well, buckle up, because today we're diving headfirst in honor of National Bionicle Day and grabbing this insane world by the horns to play and rank every officially released Bionicle game. And just to start, I'm going to put this disclaimer out there. There's obviously a lot of subjectivity that goes into ranking games, especially when you're comparing a 2001's browser game to an Xbox 360 major release. So I know there's going to be a lot of you in the comments that dispute everything I say, so I just wanted to ask really quick, do you have a Toa Inua sealed from 2001? Oh, you don't? Shut up. Only I speak the true will of Madanui. I'm also not going to be ranking all of the Flash games, even if they were officially released by Lego. When they killed Flash, a lot of them broke, and it's kind of a pain to download them all, so sorry to all the Draw the Paraka loyalists out there. Our journey starts with one of the 2 browser games I included on this list, the Madanui online game. This game was actually released before and updated episodically alongside the OG Bionicle Toa Mada toy release. This is far and away the most important piece of Bionicle media, as it set the standard for the ridiculous amount of care that went into the brand's world building. I mean, the Toa literally arrived in canisters on the island in the game that were the same canisters the real life toys were packaged in. God damn it, Bob, you evil genius, you did it again. It sounds cliche nowadays, but this approach was insanely innovative and seemingly brought the toys to life. The gameplay itself is fine. It's a point and click puzzle adventure game where you interact with the 6 Toa and explore the 6 elemental parts of the island. It's simplistic and slow, reminiscent of the times. If you don't deeply care about the Bionicle lore, there's not much for you to enjoy here. It's also not one-to-one completely lore accurate. There is some non-canon stuff in here, but this game established everything I love about Bionicle and set the brand up for success, so I gotta put it in S tier. Also, while I was doing research on this game, I found this in the Wikipedia. The development team at Templar Studios, based in the Lower East Side of Manhattan, witnessed the September 11 attacks from their office. The final chapters of the game, including the dialogue from Makuta during his fight with the Toa, were influenced by the event. Again, this is on Wikipedia, so take it with a grain of salt. There's a very strong chance this is just a meme, but I guess for now you can loosely assume that the main villain of Bionicle, Makuta, was loosely inspired by 9/11. Then there's the sequel, the Madanui Online Game 2, which is just a more content-filled sequel. To be honest though, I've never been nearly as fond of this game. It's a lot less straightforward than its predecessor, and it's one of those games where you need 16 PhDs to learn a secret code language and have a guide open on a second monitor to make timely progress. And it just kind of detracts from the mystique of the world in my opinion. Still does a lot of the same stuff as the first one very well, and it's definitely a solid A tier entry. Now, there were a lot of smaller shovelware-esque Bionicle games released on handheld, so it's time for the GBA lightning round. Lego Bionicle, a top-down shooter that controls like absolute dog poop. I played for 40 minutes, and most of that time was spent like a weird kid in the lunchroom trying to figure out where to go. But still C tier, there's still a stupid amount of lore fused into this game, and it's surprisingly enjoyable. So, maybe invite the weird kid to your table every once in a while. It'll mean a lot more to him than it will to you. Bionicle Matoran Adventure. This is one of the worst platformers I've ever played. It controls a lot like Vince Vaughn when they couldn't get his keys away from him. Absolutely smashed F tier. Bionicle for the GBA, not to be confused with the major console release of Bionicle under the same name and box art. This game bluntly is pretty bad. It seems oddly removed from the source material, and considering how faithfully crafted a lot of Bionicle media is to the larger lore, it almost feels like they took a different shovelware game and just shoved a few Bionicle textures in it last minute. I mean, just watch the death animation. That was not a Bionicle, I just watched a man die. Also F tier. Bionicle Maze of Shadows, a turn-based RPG where you fight something I would expect to find on EDP445's hard drive. A tier. This game's surprisingly pretty fun and unsurprisingly full of important canon Bionicle lore. sure. Now we're moving on to the big dogs, the major console releases. Bionicle for the PS2 generations of console. I actually had this game growing up. Sir, this is a common cheap game. Stop YouTuber engagement actually farming it. Well, I say actually because this game is a couple months older than me, so you just ouched yourself, unk. Even though I missed this game's prime, it's definitely my favorite Bionicle game. There's 8 different levels where you play as the 7 different Toa and as Tahu twice. Once in the tutorial and once after he meddled around with the rock slurp juice. I love how seriously this game takes itself. It really fills the Toa and by extension these plastic Lego toys I bought with a sense of dignity and purpose. What holds this game back is some of the levels are well made and really fun. Kopaka's Tony Hawk-esque downhill level was always a highlight for me, but others have blatant flaws impeding a smooth flow of the game, and others I flat out refuse to play. There's a lack of overall character diversity as well, or any real gameplay depth or difficulty. Everyone moves the same and shoots these nondescript energy balls, and I would have rather seen them utilize their elemental powers, which is one of the coolest parts of the Bionicle series. I'd still put it in B tier. It's a nostalgia-filled pretty good time. The final major console release is Bionicle Heroes, which, fun fact, has 3 different versions under the same name and box art. I honestly don't know how this fact isn't getting me any matches. The major console release is a third-person shooter, and is probably the most iconic game for non-Unk Bionicle fans, and holy it sucks so much dick. Firstly, this Bionicle game from 2006 had more beef with OBS than any game I've ever tried to play. This is unironically the best footage I was able to capture, so I'm sorry about that. I literally blue screen and crashed in 3 hours of troubleshooting this, more than I have in hundreds of hours of modded Skyrim. But Bandicam quality aside, this game is terrible. Now, I want you to imagine they took everything that was cool about Bionicle and said, nah, and threw it out. It has a complete lack of polish or care for the world building, full of glitches and plot inconsistencies. The game is repetitive and straight up just not fun to play, being a pretty blatant knockoff trying to capitalize off the success of the Lego Star Wars series. There's very little use of elemental abilities or anything cool about the Bionicles. I mean, if you swap the Bionicle models with Hero Factory, the game wouldn't change. Why the f do the Bionicles have force abilities? I don't know. They didn't even stay faithful to the canon lore of the universe. This is a non-canon Bionicle game. I have a better chance of going outside and finding an albino chipmunk than I do of finding another non-canon piece of Bionicle media. Why would I play this? Now, I'm not insinuating this game caused a downfall of Bionicle, but they conveniently overlap. What I am saying is I'm scheduled to go on the Joe Rogan Experience and explain how this game directly led time travelers to assassinate Archduke Ferdinand. This is unironically one of the first games I ever played and went, huh, this isn't very fun, and I've been a pessimist ever since. Easy F tier, by far the worst Bionicle game. There's only 2 more official releases of Bionicle games. Considering they're both handheld ports of Bionicle Heroes, I doubt we're gonna find a game that exemplifies the true will of Madanui. Probably just gonna round this off with it being a pretty disappointing catalog of games. Starting things off with Bionicle Heroes for the GBA, I honestly didn't even know this game existed until making this video, but surprisingly one of the most dumb fun entries in this series. It's an arcadey top-down shooter, and if this was a browser game, I unironically would have grinded this during high school Spanish. It's not a great game by any means. At times there's 5,000 different things on the screen and deaths can be pretty unfair, but you kind of just instantly respawn with the only cost being to an arbitrary score, so it's far from infuriating. There's also boss fights against the 6 Paraka. These are pretty underwhelming. It's a pretty solid game that is good for what it is, B tier. But we're still missing that timeless masterpiece that Bionicle really deserves. And moving on to our final game, it's Bionicle Heroes for the DS. And believe it or not, it's a first-person shooter. For the DS, a handheld with no method of 3-directional movement. This is unironically far and away the best Bionicle game. The game opens with setting the stage of Jawler literally getting decapitated in the intro. You play as a Matoran that falls into a vat of energized protodermis, turning him into a Toa. You battle through 6 different stages and sets of 5 levels, culminating in an epic Paraka boss fight. After a boss is defeated, you unlock the corresponding Toa's mask power embodied as a gun.
We're going to North Korea in like a year. It's going to be an island. It's going to glow in the dark. You know why? Because we're Americans.
This is probably the only Bionicle game that effectively utilizes the Toa's different elemental powers, as each gun is pretty unique and situational. The actual shooting gameplay, though a little bizarre to be mowing down a rock sheet with a submachine gun, is really fun. The game gets around the DS's lack of a joystick by utilizing the touchscreen on the bottom of the DS to act as a pseudo joystick. It's surprisingly responsive, and this is by far the best first-person shooter on the desk, and trust me, there's a lot of competition. The only knocks I have on this game is that it's not really lore accurate and it's pretty easy. Even when you die, it's like Lego Star Wars where you just lose gears. It also kind of just blatantly steals the true Toa God mode thing from Lego Star Wars. Killing enemies gives you gears, which can unlock a bunch of secrets. There's also a bunch of different secrets on every level, and when you combine these two, there's a lot of unlockable cheats like Big Head mode or invincibility. There's even a final fight in this game where you fight all the Paraka at once and free the Toa Nika. The game is an absolute masterpiece. It finally does Bionicle justice, F tier. There's no inclusion of good guy.
Yo, yo, Paraka. Yo, yo, Paraka.